What's up, y'all? Welcome to ReyMade. I'm Ray. Today I'm going to show you how I built these simple dog beds for under $50 each, using tools you might already have access to. But first, I would like to give you a backstory on why I built these dog beds. If you would like to skip to the dog bed making process, feel free to. I will put a timestamp in the description that you can click to skip. With that being said, here are my two dogs. I love them. They're my world. They are easily in the top 5 greatest things that I have ever discovered. Only behind Jesus, but I'd say above rap music and the cannabis plant. The only thing is, I don't speak dog, and I didn't think telling them in any human language that I love them was enough. This is Eleanor, nicknamed Ellie, or Smellanor. She is a boxer pit bull mix named after FDR's first lady, Eleanor Roosevelt. She definitely lives up to the name. She's super caring and super loving, but she also knows that females are an equal part in this dog-eat-dog world. I joke around and call her my emotional support dog. She comforts me when I'm down, and she gets excited for me when I'm up. Ellie shows me that agape love. Unconditional love. No matter what. She's truly a special part in my story. This is Gilfy, nicknamed Goofy, or Jibo. He's a pit bull named after my favorite Premier League soccer player, Gylfi Sigurdsson. Gylfi is a big guy, but he thinks he's a lap dog. I picked him up from the shelter. He was the longest tenured dog there after being tried out in a couple different homes. He just kept ending up back at the shelter. He seemed scared there, like he knew he needed to find a family to love him fast, before it was too late. When we got home, he was just so grateful and appreciative. I cried later that night after I got him. I just couldn't believe how anyone could look past this lovable guy, to the point where he was almost called up for euthanasia. He is the goofiest, most loyal dog I've ever come across. These two have pulled me out of a dark place mentally. And now, together we're a pack. The bestest of friends. It was only necessary for me to show them my appreciation for them with these beds. Now, before I get any more emotional, let's get started. For lumber, I picked up some 8-foot 2x6s from Lowe's. And for the legs, I'm using an 8-foot 2x4. I already had that in my shop. This is the cut list I use for my dimensions. I got these beds from Amazon. I can put a link in the description. But if you want to get a different size or style of dog bedding, you'll just have to adjust your cuts to fit your bedding. After I got my lumber sorted out, I started making all my cuts. If you're working with a miter saw like the one I'm using, you will have to cut the 2x6s on one side, then flip it over to cut the other side. It would be a lot easier to use a circular saw if you have one. When cutting a lot of the same size pieces, I like to use the ones I've already cut as a reference, so all the pieces would be as close to exactly alike as they could be. After I got all my pieces cut, I laid out all the pieces for the base and made sure the bedding fit. Once I made sure the bed fit, I started the gluing process. I decided to use Gorilla Glue wood glue for this project. I glued up the base pieces by 2s, but if you wanted to glue all of them together, if you had a big enough clamp, you could do that as well. Once I was ready to glue all of the base pieces together, I used a couple of 36-inch clamps to clamp all of the pieces together to ensure that they were tight. While the base pieces were clamped, I started to glue on the legs. And I just measured an inch from the sides and glued the legs between the two cracks of the front and the back base pieces. I just thought it would be more sturdy this way. Then after I put the final leg on, I grabbed some scrap 2x6s and placed them on the legs to add some weight to them. I just rested some stain and paint cans to where each leg stood. After I let the glue dry for about 30 minutes, I flipped it over to sand the sides and make sure it was flush. After the sides of the base were flush, I started to attach my side pieces and my back piece. Once I had it lined up how I wanted, I drilled 2 pilot holes from the back piece into the side pieces on each side. Then I used some wood screws to attach the back to the sides. After that, I screwed the back piece into the base using the pilot hole method once again. After the back piece was screwed in, I started screwing in the sides. Once the back and sides were attached, I started to sand the edges so it would have a roundness to it. After that, I started the finishing process. On the first bed, I used the Honey Stain by Varathane. I applied my stain using a rag, but you could use a paintbrush if you had one. For the second bed frame, I used a weathered oak stain by Minwax. And after the stain was applied, I was done. Overall, I'd say I'm pretty satisfied with the result. Even though I had a limited amount of tools, I was able to build something nice for my two pups. I'll probably add another coat of stain to each later and then finish with some polyurethane, but I like the way they came out. My dogs like them, so that's a win. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts on what you might have done differently, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you guys here next time on ReyMade.